It's Star Wars radio-controlled R2D2. Two 9-volt and 2C alkaline batteries not included. You can make R2D2 move, beep, and flash his light by wireless radio control.
Hey, let me try it.
You can make R2 move forward,
Look out, Dad!
backward, turn and beep.
Hurry, turn, Dad!
Radio-controlled R2D2 from the Star Wars collection by Kenner.
Kenner's radio-controlled R2D2 from the late 70s. This is a pretty cool radio-controlled toy. It has basic RC functions. It basically only goes forward and it turns its head when you activate the other direction, and he'll travel in that direction once you go back forward again. But it's kind of cool how he does it, because the way Kenner got this figured out is they used a mechanical system to get his body to turn in the direction that his head is facing in order for him to go that way. And they use like little cams that changes the polarity of the electric motors down in his legs to control which way the motor turns to turn his body in the direction that his head's facing to travel that direction. Pretty basic, but it's actually kind of cool that they came up with this. The remote control for this unit is pretty basic looking. It's kind of cool. Kind of looks like a little laser pointer device or something like that. It'd be kind of neat if they would have made it into a droid control bolt or something like that, like you see in Star Wars, where Luke pushes that button to activate his little locator for C-3PO. That would have been pretty awesome. The box looks really cool. I love the artwork on the box. And something I didn't realize is, I guess back then they had a special offer for an exclusive adventure obstacle set. This was a playmat that you would set your R2D2 unit on, and you would try to steer around the map within the corridors. I have never seen one of those before. Didn't know it even existed until I started doing research on the toy. That would have been really cool to have. Now, what we did with our R2 back then was we put toys on the floor and we set up obstacles and things, and we try to see how fast we can go through the obstacle course. Now, I didn't have one of these back in the day. I do remember seeing the commercial for it, which I thought was incredible. I do remember seeing it advertised in comic books I was reading at the time. And I do remember seeing it in the Christmas catalogs that I looked through. I always had a tradition, when the Christmas catalogs come out in August, I would go through them and I would start circling the stuff in the catalog that I would like to get for Christmas. And I typically would circle this radio control R2D2. I know why I didn't get him, because he was pretty expensive. You know, he originally sold for $28.88, which doesn't sound like much now, but back then, in today's dollars, that was over $140. So I could definitely see why I didn't get one of these for Christmas. It was a very, very expensive toy. But I had fun. Well, my buddy and I had fun driving his parents crazy with the one that he had, though. So I got to play with one quite a bit. It was a pretty cool toy. Now, one of the things I wished this unit did back in the day that it doesn't do was, have independent control of the motors of his head and of his legs and stuff. And I decided, well, since I picked this one up pretty cheap, he was a non-working unit. All thing he would do was beep at you when you turn him on, and that's pretty much it. So I figured, I want to convert this over to the way I wish the toy would operate back in the day, where I could control each motor individually on the R2 and the sound effects. So I went on Amazon, and I've used these before. They're made by D-Link. I found a 4-channel version of the radio control system. I've used one of these in that Sherman tank video I did early on from Radio Shack, where its radio control was busted. So I converted over to a 2-channel version of these, and it worked really well. So I figured I'd give the 4-channel a try. So I went ahead and started taking the R2 apart, looking at all the wires. Unfortunately, there was no real good schematics or diagrams online of what all the wires did. So basically I had to trace them out and figure out the circuitry of the R2. So once I did that, I did discover that there was 2 wires going to the soundboard, that if you ground each wire out independently, it would change the sound effects. So I installed a couple blocking diodes so I can use one channel to control the sound effects, where I couldn't send a positive voltage back down the wire to the board, but it would give me a path to negative when I selected the proper direction of the D-pad. Next, I traced out the motor wiring and figured out which way they would turn depending on which way the positive was applied to get those hooked up to the new radio control board. Also checked out how to hook up the head for its motor to spin right and left depending on which way I hit the fourth channel. Did a little bit of a test fitting, a little bench test with everything out loose. Then I went ahead and mounted the radio control unit in the original battery box. Now I couldn't use the original batteries that came with it, the system, because this radio control board requires 6 volts. I originally was going to try to use just the 2 C batteries, but didn't have enough power. So I put a current limiting resistor in, and I used a 9-volt battery, which fits perfectly down where the C batteries went and is retained down there really well. Then mounted the circuit board for the RC system. Used a little bit of hot glue to just tack it in place to keep it from flopping around in there. And then I started to reassemble the R2 unit back together again. Got the head mounted, the circuit boards mounted, got the 2 halves of the bodies put together, made sure the circuit board was held in place really well. And then I gave it a try, and it worked extremely well. I had to tweak a little bit on the gear train on the left-hand side leg because this shaft didn't have a good press fit, and it kept wanting to work out and cause the gear to move away, and it would stall out on that side. So I had to work on that a little bit to get it working properly again, which wasn't a big deal. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a closer look at the little R2 unit, and then we'll run it through its paces, and then we'll try to run around on the floor so you can see it running around. Well, before I run this guy, let's take a closer look at the actual toy itself a little bit closer. Kenner did a lot of detail work on this. It's actually pretty good. I wish I would have had the 3rd leg though, and it was kind of in its tilted back, but no, this is kind of cool. I love the finish on the head, the silver dome and the blue metallic. You can see the head has a clutch in it because the new kits are going to do this. That helps protect the mechanism, the gears, for it to turn. The wheels are the same way. They have little clutches on them as well. See on the bottom, it's got 4-wheel. He's 4-wheel drive. Awesome. Electronic, do not drop. Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. It's actually in really good shape. I'm pretty impressed with how good a shape this toy was in. It's not all yellowed up. So that was kind of nice. Here's the original on-off switch. Now inside the battery compartment, you used to run off the 9-volt battery and 2 C batteries. Now it just runs off a single 9-volt. And right up there you can see the radio control board I mounted. If I turn it on, you'll see the light come on. Let you know it is powered up. When it's dark, you can see him glowing in the middle. You know, he has like an ET heart light. Pretty nice looking little R2 unit. Okay, so now let's go ahead and run them around on the floor. Okay, you got the batteries in them. Here's what the remote control looks like. It's a very cheap remote control. It's not proportional at all. It's just on-off. So I can control the sound effects in them. And his little light, his LED eyeball. I can control his head. Now I may do a modification of this to where I can make the head turn a little bit slower. It actually spins around pretty quick. And also I can control, you know, forward and backwards. If I do a forward and back on each channel, I can make them spin in place, which works pretty good. If I use just one leg to go forward, he'll do a larger turn. Oh, he's knocking my back down all over the place. Dang it, R2. Pretty awesome, man. I like this much more than what I did with this one. Oh. Oh no. Ah, R2's going crazy. Well, that was the RC retrofit of a classic vintage Kenner radio controlled R2D2. It was a really fun project to do. I had a lot of fun doing it. And it now operates the way I wish it did back in the day. Would I do this again? I probably would, but I would make a few minor changes. One of the things I'd probably do is to make the head a little bit easier to control because it overshoots, so it spins too fast. And I'd probably do some other things with the sound effects to make them work a little bit differently as well. But anyway, did any of you have this classic toy back in the day? If you did, comment down below. When did you get it? Did you get it for Christmas, your birthday, or just out of the blue? Did you save up your money, allowance money to buy it, or mow lawns? Tell your stories and memories of these little radio control R2D2 units. I'd really like to hear them. Anyway, as always, everyone, thanks for watching.